Hello YouTube and welcome back to my Polaris Indy 500 project. I got the motor in the sled here. I got to tighten up the motor mounts yet, but we ran the pull rope and just kind of laid everything out where it's going to hook up. Everything is dropping right into place except for that cooling neck that I talked about in the last video. The guy that I bought the motor from had that piece. He didn't need it. I didn't think I would need it, so I told him he could keep it. But I got back a hold of him, and the wife's going to pick that up on Tuesday. And so then we'll have everything we need for the cooling system. The biggest thing is going to be just making sure that the motor itself should be all right. The biggest thing is going to be making sure that the coolers aren't plugged, that the exchanger isn't plugged. Just making sure that the parts of the sled that are still here, that have been here from original, aren't completely trashed. And so what we'll do now is we'll finish bolting this motor down, and then I'm going to go ahead and run some compression tests on it. And then we'll hook the electrical part of it up and do some spark tests. And then I can get the oil injection lines hooked up and all that. I'm going to check some of those lines because I think some of them might just need to be replaced. But we'll get all that hooked up, get the exhaust on it, and then basically all we'll be waiting on is the coolant. And then we'll be able to fire it. So it should be a fairly simple, easy, straightforward project, really. I was thinking it was going to be a lot harder than this for some reason, but now that I say it out loud, it don't seem too bad at all. And then we just got to get the throttle cable ran up to the thumb throttle, and then we got to figure out what we're going to do with the brakes, whether I call the salvage yard and see if I can get a master cylinder from someone or whatever I decide. But brakes are one of them things that when you're out here kind of just pounding around in the ditches, you don't seem to use them very often, but when you do need them, it's a darn good thing you got them. So yeah, it's probably something we better get. And then I'm going to see if I decide I want to make my riser any taller. I did find some online, but they're a little bit more spendy, but you can get like a 4 and 6 inch risers for these things now. Back when I was building this one, way back when I was in high school, they didn't have options like that. So I just built this, but I'm not going to spend $60 on a bar riser, but I thought it was kind of neat that they're available. So anyways, we will keep going here. And just looking at it, I think I may have to do some toe adjustments as well. It looks like my skis are both pointing out a little bit, but we'll see what happens. I'm just excited to be this far with it, and I'm going to get this motor bolted down, and then we'll do some compression tests. All right, guys, it's a few days later, and I got my missing parts, so I'm going to go ahead and start working on the sled again. It's freaking cold out here, so I got my little buddy heater running. I don't know if it's going to do any good, but I still haven't found a heater for the shop, and it's probably 15, 20 degrees in here, and with wind chill, it's below 0 outside. So, yeah, we'll see how long I can last out here. I think I'm going to try and take the chain case cover off, and I'm sure it's all gunky in there, and get that cleaned out, and then we'll pick up some fresh oil. Maybe I won't do that this year. Maybe I'll just wait and do it this summer. I don't know yet. But anyways, we should be able to get the coolant hoses hooked on and finish up with the oil injection lines and get the old gas pumped out of the gas tank. And that'll really be all we have left to do before we can fire this thing and see how it's going to run. So I'm hoping to get it fired up yet tonight. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we're going to give it a shot. So go ahead and stick with me, and we'll see what happens. All right, YouTube, I think my night has maybe come to a messy end. I figured out why, or I took the line off of the oil injector, and no oil was coming out of the end of the line. I figured that was an issue, so I took the line off. Unfortunately, when taking the line off, there's no way to shut the oil off, so I got oil all over in the bottom of this thing, and I don't really know that there's a place for that to drain out, so it's probably just going to sit in there and become a nasty mess. But I'm trying to collect as much of it as I can and dump it here. I actually had to cut the hose a little bit because that hose clamp on the bottom broke, and so I'm going to have to spin the fitting out of the bottom of that tank and get that old hose clamp off of there. Now, that's one thing I hate about them spring clamps. But anyways, the line and filter, and I'm probably going to have to replace the filter as well because it popped out of the housing, but they were full of ice. And so I suppose what happened was water got in there, condensation or whatever over the years as it sat outside, and that water went to the bottom because oil floats on water, and then it froze. And so it's a good thing that I did this because otherwise I would not have had any oil injection, and that wouldn't have been good for my engine. And so I guess what I'll do is see if I can't get this to go back together. If I don't think that filter is going to seal, I guess I'll have to wait and get a new filter. But yeah, and then I'm just going to have a messy, oily mess under there that I have to take care of. But we'll see. I don't know if I'll do a whole lot more tonight yet or not. I may dump some coolant in it just to see if there's any leaks. But that may be about the end of what I got for tonight. Okay, guys. So I'm going to get a new filter on order for the oil injection, but I got it pieced back together good enough for tonight. I dumped some oil back in the reservoir, and it was coming out the other end of the hose, so that's a good sign. I got about 4.5 gallons of old gas out of this thing. There's still some in there, but I'm going to dump some new stuff in with it, and hopefully that dilutes it out enough that it'll run good. I'm going to go ahead and dump coolant in this thing and just double check that everything is hooked up, and then we should be ready to try and fire it. So hang tight. All right, guys, here goes nothing. I'm going to grab some carbon choke cleaner because that's probably what it's going to take to get it to pop off, and we'll see what happens. Well, guys, that's a start. We've obviously got a major exhaust leak there. I may have to switch to the other can or figure out if I need different springs on here or if things just aren't setting right or what the heck is going on there. But that's a hefty exhaust leak there. I didn't really have it choked that time. So I'm going to see if I can't get it started now without using some spray. Well, that's a good start. I'm going to tinker with this thing a little bit more and see if I can't keep it running better.